Hey, everybody, it's David Whalen. Again, this is the Raising Men podcast, and I am grateful to have NHLer Zac Rinaldo. He's now coach of the Pelham Panthers Junior A team. Again, I'm grateful. This is episode 13, so we're rocking away. And again, Zac, thank you very much for coming on board.
No problem. Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for reaching out. I love doing this kind of type of stuff.
Yeah, I know we've had some great conversations around the rinks, and obviously, I had the pleasure of watching you play, and I love the style of play that you brought to the game, and I've also had the opportunity to sort of see you speak to some of your athletes and some of the kids that you're coaching, and I respect what you're doing. It's amazing that you're giving back to the community and teaching these kids how to take care of themselves as professionals and all of that. So again, thank you so much.
No problem. No problem. It's just ingrained in me. It's a part of who I am. It's part of how I was raised. So giving back has always been a part of my foundation growing up. So I've learned all these things and I've sharpened all these tools and I've added tools into my toolbox. And now it's just putting them to work and showing other people, not just kids, athletes and people, all walks of life, how to use them and how to add tools and sharpen tools as well.
Thank you. So like for me, obviously watching your career, I was a big Leafs fan. So at times I hated watching you play against them, but I absolutely respected what you're doing out there. But with all that said, like for me, what interests is that, as I understand it, that the path that you've gone from playing youth hockey to junior hockey to the NHL, wasn't the easiest process. And I think, there's a lot of young athletes that, think that being drafted number one guarantees you something, or being the best all the time. Some of these kids that maybe aren't working hard. And I wanted to sort of maybe have you explain sort of your path for those that are listening on how you went from youth hockey all the way to making the NHL and being a very important piece of a number of teams.
Yeah, I think number one, you need to dream big, massively, massively big. So that dream started for me at 8 years old. I wanted to play in the NHL at 8 years old, and nobody or nothing, in my opinion or my mind, was going to stop that from happening.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, kind of like when you first start learning about what you need to do in order to create your own path. Once I formed my mindset on what my path needed to be,
Mm-hmm.
literally nothing was going to stop me from achieving it. So the path was, get drafted, play in the OHL, get drafted, play in the NHL. It was very simple
Mm-hmm.
to reach the biggest dream that anybody can dream of. But along the path, I had no expectations realistically. I was willing to do everything that it took. I didn't care how hard it was. I never thought it was going to be easy.
Mm-hmm.
I never, uh, I don't know why I didn't think it was going to be like a lot of things I can't really explain. It's just been a part of me. I was always prepared for hard work. I was always ready extremely hard to I don't even know what my limits are to where I said, I can't go anymore. I haven't reached that yet,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting to me. But I was drafted, I was drafted 14th round to
Wow.
the majors. That's the second last round into the draft. Before, the season played out and mad people tell me and scouts tell me and friends and just kind of rumblings into the draft was like, oh yeah, you'll probably go third or fourth round. You're a good player, you're physical, you can get a lot of points, your work ethic, blah blah blah. So like third, fourth round comes and I'm on the computer, like everyone else, I'm assuming does. And I'm on the computer and like third, fourth round comes, six, seven, eight. I'm like, fuck this. I'm like, I can't take this stress anymore. So I left the computer, I left my house. I went outside with one or two of my buddies. We started playing street hockey. I just needed to totally disconnect. No one told me like, "Hey, Zach, go outside." I just knew what I needed to stop stressing over it. So I needed
Mhm.
to just and not worry about it. So I went outside, was playing ball hockey with rollerblades, and we just having fun and totally disconnecting from the draft. My sister ran down the street. She's like, "Oh, she was excited. 14th round to Mississauga." I was obviously excited, but not overly excited.
Mhm.
But all I knew was that I just wanted to go to camp. So went to camp, and my my mindset was go there and make a mess. I knew out. I
Yeah.
knew first round. I wasn't the third or fourth or fifth. So I wasn't gonna outscore the first round guy. I
Mm.
was to outskill the fifth to sixth round guy.
Mm.
And I like, if I really um really thought I could, then maybe I would have, but I just didn't have that mindset right then.
Mhm.
I made a mess. I hit everything that I saw because
Uh-huh.
that was strongest strength. That was like my asset. That was my niche.
Mhm.
Um, went there with my niche, and I totally dominated, and I turned a lot of heads. And I was one of the last cuts to make the team as a 14th round pick.
Wow.
Went to junior A as a 16-year-old. I had 32 points, like 16-year-old, 16 goals, 16 assists, did really well. Played 9 games in the OHL as a 16-year-old, up and down junior A to the OHL. And then I was full time after that with Mississauga.
Mhm.
I was underneath Dave Cameron
Okay.
at the time. We really butt heads. He was hard on me.
Yeah.
He was me, and we butt heads. Looking back at it now, really thankful, and I totally understood what he was trying to get across. So if I could do it all over again, I probably would have paid attention to him a little more, listened to him a little more, and bought into his philosophies a little more.
Mhm.
Actually, a moment that I'm not proud of, my first year in the O, I quit. I quit the OHL.
Wow.
My dad was a very big influence, sometimes not the best influence. So I wasn't playing a lot as a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old, and rightfully so. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. That's the way it goes. You got to buy your time. You got to learn the ropes, and you got to, buy your time and invest into your team and invest into your craft. And that's not going to happen overnight. So I wasn't playing much. And, me and my dad talk. I'm like, well, why don't we just go home and go play for the Hamilton Junior A team and actually play? So I was like, yeah, okay. So we went to the coach, Dave Cameron's office. I'm like, hey, it's not working out here. I'm just gonna go home and play back home. He didn't hold me back. He said, yeah, okay, you do what you got to do. 2 weeks goes by. Dave Cameron calls me and said, listen, if you have a change of heart and you want to come by, come back into the team, all you have to do is, step into the dressing room and apologize to your team for quitting. So I did just that. I walked back into the room. I apologized to my team, and I was kind of brought back in and started playing again. Uh, it's with Mark and Dale Hunter. I stepped into that organization. I stepped into that dressing room, and I just felt home. I felt like they were cut from the same cloth. I felt that I wasn't really an outcast because of my mental, my mindset was a lot different than a lot of kids. So going into that London organization, I felt at home.
Mhm.
Played a with them, got traded to Barrie, went to the finals with London, went to the finals with Barrie, had a great time, really good exposure. I was drafted to Philly, a second last round in the NHL draft. And honestly, like I remember watching the computer again. Here we go back to the computer with the draft and just being like so watch first round, second round, third round, all the way up to the seventh. And Philly was my team growing up as a kid. I
Mhm.
loved Eric Lindros. Yeah, I bled orange, and I still do bleed orange. So I remember Philly was up in the seventh round, and I told myself, I'm like, they should take me. I literally told myself like they should take me, and my name popped up, and I was over the moon with joy, and I was so grateful and thankful.
That's
But
awesome.
I knew then that I was going to be a Flyer. It wasn't if, it was just a matter of when, because I knew I'd give my heart and soul. So made the team a year later, played in the AHL for a year. That was a struggle, a big struggle in the A. Had to fight a lot of life lessons inside of there. And then, made the Flyers, and it's kind of all history from there. But it wasn't, in my opinion, it wasn't that hard of a journey, just because I knew where I was going.
Mhm.
I was on the path every time. I might have been derailed once or twice, but I didn't have any expectations. So I think that was probably the easiest thing, was to not have expectations and just go tunnel vision and go.
What, you know, whether it's parents or kids or anyone listening, outside of having that tunnel vision and being dedicated to your sport and not letting anything hold you back, what might, speaking to people, what are do's and don'ts? What are, you know, with a better language, what's bullshit ideas that people put out there? What are things that you hear all the time that you're like, man, that's just dumb?
Yeah,
Um, what do you suggest? What would you say to people out there that want to make it, and there's all this fluff that floats around?
you have to, a couple things. You have to let what people say fuel your fire. You have to use that as ammunition, because a lot of people will laugh or make fun of you for believing in what you believe in, and they'll poke fun of you, or they'll say you can't do it, or they'll laugh at you. I never rebutted that. I never argued that. I never got into confrontation about that. I just took it, and I internalized it, and it fueled my fire, and it made me angry. It made me so much more passionate to prove them wrong. But again, I never lashed out against those comments. I
Mm,
was just, okay, you're right, or I just ignored it, or I just really internalized it, and it pissed me off, and it really did. So it made me more hungry to achieve and to prove them wrong. But I do think the belief system is a number one thing. I think as long as you have one person, two people in your family, in your immediate family, that believe in you, I really do think that goes a long way. When I hear players, and I'm sitting down with their parents, and I ask them, where you want to go? Like, what's the goal here? What's the dream? And sometimes the parents speak up for them, and they're like, oh, I just want my son to play the highest level he can play. Well, I just don't think that's reality. I don't, that's not real. That's such a gray area.
mm,
Have a direct dream, or if you're timid, or if you're shy to say what your real dream is, you will never achieve it. So just be brutally honest, as weird as you might think you sound. But again, if you think you sound weird with saying what your real dream is, you don't really want that dream.
mm,
So be so honest with yourself, and use people's negative comments or their bullying, if you will, about your dream as fuel to your fire. But in my opinion, number one thing is you need a belief system. I think my whole family never doubted me. I never had anyone in my family say I couldn't do this. Uh, they just let me be me, and I think maybe they saw my hunger,
mm.
and maybe they knew just as much as I did that I was going to get there. But never once in my life did I have any family member say, no, you're probably not going to do it. Let's just focus on school, or no, you're not going to do it. Let's just try to get to the highest we can get, which could have been junior hockey. But I never had that. So I think belief system and using people's negative comments to you is using your fuel.
What, with that said, like my boys play in the GTHL, and there's always this question of needing to play on the best teams or play with the best players. You know, what at whatever level that you're playing at. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about um, having to be on the top number one team, or um, where do you suggest that the players go with that?
Um, that's That's as I've been coaching, I've been learning a lot, and the mindset that I had growing up as a kid, and the mindset that I probably had till about last year was, if you're good enough, they'll come get you. If they're good enough, they will find you. It doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what team you're on. I think there needs it's a great. I think we're back in that gray area now when it comes to hockey and it comes to society,
Mhm,
because I do think that when you're on a winning team, more people want to watch the winning team, especially when two winning teams go head to head in
mhm,
a. There's gonna be a lot more people and a lot more eyes on you. But if you aren't on the, better team, you need to rise above everybody on your team and do something every shift and do something every night to stand out.
mhm,
As long as you stand out every single shift, every single game, whether you're on the ice or you're warming up or you're on the bench or you're just how you conduct yourself within your team, you need to stand out. And I think when you stand out, you just generate a lot of noise surrounding you. So your team might not be entertaining to watch because you're not the top team, but shit, this player every single shift, like I want to, if I'm a scout, I want to be at the edge of my seat waiting for this player to come out because I he's gonna do something every single shift, and that's exciting. So I think it does pay off to be on a top team, but you could get lost in the sauce if you're on a good team with all these star-studded players, because you really could be a really good player, just not standing out amongst those players. So I really don't. That's a tough question. I do
mhm.
believe you have to look at different ways. If you're on not the greatest team, you need to stand out
Mhm,
what you're doing. And if you're on that really high-end team, you still have to have that same mindset. But I
mhm,
think it's easier to do better because you're going to have better players around you.
mhm.
So I think either way, it still can be achieved. It's just a different mind.
Did you play other sports growing up? Were you involved in other things, or did you focus 100% on hockey? Was it hockey every month of the year, or did you do other things?
I tried, I dabbled in flag football. But like when I say I dabbled, I probably did it for like one off season.
Yeah.
Flag football for one off season. I did inline. I loved inline, like roller hockey. I loved roller hockey. I played for a couple years growing up. I tried football. I wanted to play football. I think I would have been really good at football. My first practice, uh, I went to hit the bag and I sprained my thumb and I had to
Mhm,
miss. And I said, no way am I doing this for me so I can hockey practice. I was okay with being hurt. I was all good with it. Um, but I didn't want to miss hockey. So like that, hockey just dominated my mindset. It dominated my thoughts. It dominated my life. And I tried baseball. I liked baseball, but it was, if it took away from hockey, I didn't want to do it. And that
mhm,
was me. So yeah, I wanted to play other sports. It just took away time from hockey. So hockey was the number one thing. I did it all season, all year round, winter, summer, spring, fall. I just lived it. When I was at the rink, when I was outside the rink, I was in my basement shooting pucks at a mattress, at a concrete basement. My dad spray painted it white with dots and blue lines and red lines. I wore my rollerblades down there every single night. And when I wasn't down there on the ice, I was on my street playing roller hockey, playing street hockey. You just literally couldn't get me away from the game.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Were there people, obviously you mentioned your dad, were there people in your life that, um, and Dave Cameron, were there people that really impacted you, coaches along the way? Are there stories that really like, kind of punched you in the face and were like, oh shit, like, and put you in a direction and that you're grateful for?
Yeah. Uh, my dad, sure, I don't, we know, like, we don't have a relationship, but he, uh, he would just feed me pucks. he would he would feed me pucks and he wouldn't stop feeding me pucks. He would just pass it to me and shoot, pass, shoot, pass, shoot to like to the point where like sometimes he would keep me going down there and I didn't want to be down there. I'd cry, but like I wouldn't stop. Like I would never like just stop because like I didn't love it. I was upset that like I had to keep going, but I loved to keep going. So I think he pushed through that threshold
Mhm.
and he saw that I wouldn't stop no matter what. So I think he really pushed and he pushed and he pushed and he pushed because I just wouldn't stop doing it because I just loved doing what I was doing. I think he really um, identified, he helped me identify what kind of animal I am mentally,
Mhm.
physically, game. But I think uh, Mark and Dale Hunter, if it wasn't for them, I definitely wouldn't be the player. I probably wouldn't be in the NHL. And I say this all the time about them. When I was suspended in the OHL, they would they would ride the bike with me. They would do the extra conditioning with me. They'd bag skate with me. Um, when when I, was playing my game, they taught me so many little details inside of my game. And it came from a father figure aspect, not a coach. And
Mhm.
that's how I learned as a kid growing up. It couldn't be a coach telling me. It had to come from like a father loving mentor type of vibe.
Mhm.
Both had that in them. Uh, Peter Laviolette, he had that same like it was family orientated. As a 20-year-old kid, he brought me into his home. We had dinner. We drank some wine, and we bonded over the time in his house with his family, with his wife, with his kids. So he got the side of me on the personal level, and I got to see the side of him on a personal level. So that makes me want to do more for those people.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, there's just a lot of different those three people definitely helped me along the way.
That's awesome. Thank you. Uh, what, from a development side of things, were there things that you did that helped your performance on the ice? Were there things that you suggest? Um, and I've heard like mental training is a big thing now. Um, different things. What are there things that were impactful for you, whether it be growing up or even in the NHL, that you find you'd highly recommend?
Growing up, I did a ton of power skating, but I think that the power skating it's been watered down. I don't I'm not I got to stop saying I know that because when I see it, the
Yeah.
rep not there. I used to do drills. I used to do two drills for like 20 minutes because that's how the brain learns. It's the repetition, it's the repetition, it's the legs are burning and the instructor knows your legs are burning and he's not letting you stop. That side of power skating is lost. They do one drill for 5 minutes and then because they get tired they want to switch it up. I think the mental the no one is coaching the physical and the mental aspect of the game. So power skating, I think, is should be a number one thing. But if you're going to do it, please do it to your fullest potential every single time, or you will not get the benefit from it. So power skating 100%. And I think at a young age, probably from like 15 to 20,
Mhm.
just and go with your buddies and pump some iron and have fun. And I think when it gets to a certain point, in like maybe like 19, 20, 21,
Mhm.
start diving down deep into specific.
Mhm.
But again, everyone's different. I can only speak to what really helped me. I'm
Mhm.
learning ways now, but I still do believe that you need to be able to experience your childhood
Mhm.
and good time while you're on the path to your dreams. So if you can get in the gym with your buddies and just have a social aspect of working out while you're building strength and love the game that you're playing and still dedicate time to your craft, I do think that's so valuable. So power skating, 100%. Going to the gym, being social, building strength, but taking it seriously when you're doing it with your buddies. And I think shooting. Shoot. And if you can find a slab of concrete outside and do it.
Yeah,
And long until your parents tell you to come home or till until you're hungry, but you do it. And if your legs, your arms are burning, continue to do it because that's where the growth is. Well, power skating, working out, shooting pucks, I highly recommend it at raw, and it's raw form. You don't have to do it with instructors. You don't have to do it um, with mommy and daddy paying this instructor and going to these high performance classes. Just shoot and just skate and just work out.
that's awesome. I love that. I love that a lot. Is now you're with Pelham Panthers. Is there anything that you learned through that, or anything that you want to sort of discuss with that you're learning as we go through this?
Yeah, I'm learning a lot of things that I should have done better as a player, unfortunately. And the saddest thing, and I don't really live with regrets. I don't. I gave it all my all, but there's some areas where I'm like, shit, I definitely could have done a better job. I could have been a better teammate. But I'm teaching, I'm also learning, I'm also growing while I'm teaching.
Mhm,
Uh, I do have like epiphanies that I'm like, wow, that's exactly what my coach was trying to get at. Because now I'm trying to get to the same. I'm trying to get out of someone what a coach was trying to get out of me. I
mhm,
didn't at the time, and I probably didn't understand it until like a year later, or like a year ago. So like little lingo that coaches would tell me, and now I'm telling my players, and I'm like, shit, um, that's what he meant. So I'm learning so much about my younger self while I'm coaching that I could have done better. But at the same time, into these kids, things that I did to make them better. So I'm just learning a lot. Without I'm teaching myself a lot.
is there any specific lesson that you can think of that came out of that? Like, is there something that popped up and you're like, man, I wish I I wish I knew that, or listened to that better back then?
Two things. I think I definitely could have better been more of like personality. I could have been more open
Mhm,
inside of the locker room, and I just unintentionally I was just closed off. Like my aura kind of gives off like I don't know what this guy's thinking, so I don't really want to approach him.
mhm,
So loved inside of my dressing rooms, and I was such a good teammate, but I could have been a better teammate if I just opened up a little more, or I took criticism from my teammates better, or I dove into deeper personal conversations with some of my teammates when they were trying to get that out of me.
mhm.
So I think on that side of things, I definitely could have been a better teammate. And then as a better player, sometimes I was closed off to what the coach was saying because I didn't want to hear it. And that's at NHL level too. So everyone kind of goes through these things. So um, but I think yeah, just those two things for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm grateful and appreciative of having you on the podcast today. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on or discuss, or really highlight um, at all, whether it be about yourself that you want people to know, or that you want people to be left with
Mhm.
through today's podcast?
Yeah, I just don't want anybody to lose sight of like their childhood experiences. I do think it's healthy to have a good balance to pursue your dreams in your sport, but at the same time, don't lose connection with the outside world. Don't lose connection with events and parties um, and going out in the street with your buddies and hanging out and doing non-sport related things. That's okay too. You can have a healthy balance with sports, with your sports buddies, and a life with your other buddies, your other friends that don't play sports too. So I think having a healthy balance and living your childhood while you're still involved with sports and still pursuing your dreams, I definitely don't want kids to lose sight of the life aspect and don't get wrapped up into this hockey, 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 which is, but you also need to have a balance outside of hockey, and that's living your life.
Um, and now I know, I believe you're on social media. Obviously, you're with the Pelham Panthers coaching. Is there other areas where people can connect with you? I think on social media. Do you have a social media handle that people, or do you want to mention?
Yeah, both Twitter and Instagram, it's at Ronaldo Zac, RINALDO ZAC. Very simple to access, and I'm on both.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, again, Zach, I really appreciate your time. I'm grateful that you've given me your time today. And again, this is episode 13. My name is David Whalen. We're here with Zac Rinaldo, formerly of the Philadelphia Flyers and I think Calgary Flames, Barrie Colts, London Knights. Yeah, again, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much.
Sure, man. Thanks for inviting me on. Appreciate it.
You have a great day. I appreciate you.